So here's our last video on Centerline Perimeter and what makes Centerline Perimeter kind of a handy thing to have as a carpenter or an estimator. So this is the picture we used from our first video. We have a building that's 44 feet long and it's 32 feet wide. We have a footing that's 20 inches wide, it's 6 inches tall, it has a 6-inch projection on each side, and what we have to do is we have to figure out how many 2x6s do I have to order, or how many 1x6s do I have to order to be able to form up this footing. And if you use Centerline Perimeter, we can get the answer pretty quickly. So from the first one, our Centerline Perimeter calculation was the width plus the length times 2 minus 4 times the foundation wall thickness, and that gave us a centerline perimeter of 149.33 feet. The linear feet of formwork required for the footings, the linear feet of formwork required for the foundation are going to be the exact same. Okay, the footing is only 8 inches thick and it's 6 inches set 6 inches in each direction. So all of these numbers transfer over. So it's going to be the exact same number of linear feet for your forming material for your footings, the forming material for your foundation wall. So what does that mean? Take your centerline perimeter. You've got an inside form to build and you have an outside form to build. So take that centerline perimeter, multiply it by 2. 149.33 times 2 means that you need 298.66 linear feet of 2x6, 1x6 to form your footings. So you're going to get 300 feet. So if you're ordering 16-foot material, 300 feet divided by 16-foot long material, you're going to need 19 pieces of 2x6 or 1x6 to form up your footings. Now, centerline perimeter can also be handy because you can quickly then call, let's say you're going to do a block foundation, a 10-inch block foundation. You can quickly tell your mason that the foundation is going to be 300 linear feet. So the foundation is going to be 300 linear feet in length total, and it's going to be 7'6" high. So with their scaling charts, they can figure out how many block is going to be required from that, how much mortar is going to be required from that, how many days labor is going to be required from that. If you're doing an ICF form wall, right, insulated concrete forms, once again, you can use centerline perimeter, right? You can now tell them how many linear feet of ICF you're going to require to do this foundation. Right now for ICF, you don't have to multiply it by 2 because each block contains the inner and outer formwork material. You may find that some of your foundation companies work by the linear foot of foundations in order to form and pour it. And so if they had a $25 per linear foot cost to form and pour an 8-inch thick wall, then you would be able to figure out again what your dimensions are going to be. Your linear feet are going to be required for that. If you're going to form this up yourself, this is where centerline perimeter comes back in real handy. What they are going to be able to do is you're going to be able to look at how much form ply, how many linear feet of whalers you're going to need for the inside and the outside. And this centerline perimeter is going to do that for you. Now, I know what's burning in the back of each of your heads right now is, well, what if we end up with a building that isn't a perfect rectangle? What if we end up with a building that's got a jog in it? Well, each of our outside corners, we have to add the thickness of our unit. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 corners. Each of our inside corners, we end up subtracting. Okay, so this corner doesn't actually come into play. If you end up with a building that's kind of a U shape, right, which is goofy, but it can happen. you end up with a U-shaped building, you're still only ever going to worry about these 4 outside corners. These 2 extra outside corners and these 2 extra inside corners are going to cancel each other out. So when we're doing centerline perimeter, doesn't matter if the building's got a lot of goofy jogs in it. All you need to figure out is to subtract the 4 components from it. Okay, the 4 units, and that will work each time, every time. Okay, so centerline perimeter, handy for calculating volume. Centerline perimeter, once you have that for your foundation plan, then you have the centerline perimeter of your footings to calculate volume, to calculate form material. You have the centerline perimeter for your foundation wall with the same numbers to calculate volume for concrete and to calculate potentially for formwork. All right. Centerline perimeter, it's a handy thing to have, to know, and it's in a way, it's just faster. It's faster than breaking this up into 4 individual rectangles, finding the volume of each of those, and then multiplying them, and then doing that whole process again for your foundation wall. Another thing we covered in the very first video that I think makes centerline perimeter a great thing to know is when you are looking at a building, you're always going to be given your outside of foundation wall to outside of foundation wall, outside of foundation wall, outside of foundation wall. And what this basically centerline perimeter does for you is skips the step of figuring, okay, if it's a 20-inch wide footing and I'm going to put an 8-inch wall centered on top of it, that means that I have 20 minus 8, which is 12, divided by 2 means that I have a 6-inch projection on the inside, a 6-inch projection on the outside. So in order to figure out my footing, I have to add 6 inches to the left, 6 inches to the right, 6 inches to the top, 6 inches to the bottom to actually get my outside dimension of all of my footings. From there, I can then break it into 4 rectangles and figure out the volume, and on and on and on it goes. And so by doing centerline perimeter, it really speeds things up as far as your estimating goes, as far as figuring out your volumes of concrete. So have a look at, this is the third of 3 videos for today. Have a look at these 3 videos, and then once you've finished with these 3 videos, then attempt the quiz for this week. Have a great day.